Welcome to Pouse around the house. In this video I'm going to be removing this integrated fridge freezer and unit there and replacing it with this smaller larder unit by here. As part of this project you'll see me attach the legs and the doors to the unit, fit the unit into place and attach the handles to the doors. Now if you look down here you'll notice that when I tiled the kitchen floor I only tiled up to the legs of the kitchen unit. So unfortunately that means that when I replace this 600 unit with a 300 unit we're going to have a little bit of exposed concrete floor under there. So as part of this video we're going to be doing a bit of tiling to rectify that problem. Now because this work is actually going to reduce the overall length of the cupboard, it means that I could just cut this cornice down to size, I can cut the plinth down to size below, and I can reuse this cream end panel by placing it on the end of my new unit. So now I'm just going to detach the fridge freezer doors from the unit doors.
Blowing smoke rings in the afternoon, leaning out the window of your sister's room. Fractured smile as a chemical illusion fades, burning our names into subway walls, creasing over sketches from the night before. Blacked out smile.
Before you pull the fridge freezer out, don't forget to unplug it. Now I should probably empty the fridge to make it a bit easier to carry, but unfortunately the way I want to do it is move the fridge, leave my food in it, get these units done, then get the new fridge freezer into place, let it settle, and then we'll transfer the food over. So what I've done down here is I've used some old joists, which if you watch my loft conversion videos, there's some offcuts from that, and hopefully that'll allow me to pull it out level, then I can kind of drag it out, wiggle it around without the thing tilting over, because I don't want it tilting because the doors will probably come out and I'll have milk all over the floor. So I'm just going to move this end cream panel here, and that's just held on with a few screws. There we go, that's come away nicely. So next thing to do now is to remove this cornice before I start pulling away this unit.
Drinking in the club with a fake ID, fall into a taxi, creeping home at 3. Blacked out smile as a chemical illusion.
I've undone all the screws that fixed it to the wall and to the unit next to it, so this should, in theory, come away easily. So if you take a quick look at the floor here, you can see the screed, and my intention is to chip out this tile, this tile and this tile, and replace it with some full tiles, because when I fitted the kitchen and tiled the floor a few years back, I was sensible enough to keep a few spares. So I can continue this brick bond pattern, and that way, if the fridge freezer is ever moved again in the future, you've got continuation of the floor tiles. This is a 300mm wide larder unit I'm going to be fitting. This is from Howden, so it comes pre-assembled. It's got the feet inside, so I'm going to take those out now. I'm going to attach the feet to the base of the unit, and I'm going to fit that into place and screw it to the unit next to it. So the feet that come supplied, you've got these three bits there, so you can't get them wrong, and you push those into the pre-drilled holes on the base of the unit. Then you give the back a tap with a hammer and that pushes through and spreads this inside the holes. Then you've got these additional little holes there where you can go round and just fix it with some screws to secure it tight. So you can see there, you just give that a tap. That pushes into place, spreads that other plastic bit out into the hole and secures this tight into the unit. This is the second part of the leg which we screw into place, and this allows you to adjust the height. But if you just take a look there, you can see that little circle, and that is the starting point for the height of the unit, or a standard height of the unit. So you can see there that little dot or circle. You wind the leg in until that meets the end of this bit of leg, and that's about right. So then you can put the unit into place and then just make fine adjustments according to whether your floor is exactly level or not. Whenever you're putting screws into a kitchen unit like this, just make sure that they're long enough to sit into the unit, but not so long that they poke through the other side, or you're going to have screw heads going inside the unit. and finally take the caps and pop them into place. It's a good idea just to remove the shelves out at this point and we can fit them back in later. So if you just look at the back of the unit there, we've got this gas pipe, and we've also got a socket which was just unfortunately placed really, and it came right at the back of the unit. So I'm just going to do a little cut around for both the pipe and the socket, just like you can see on the edge of the unit there. We'll trim that with a jigsaw and then slot it into place. I'm just going to drill 2 holes with a wood drill bit just to allow me to start my jigsaw blade cut. So once you've positioned your unit in place, you want to try and line the base of this unit up with the next one, and you can do this by just either rotating these legs inwards or upwards, either extending them or making them shorter. You want to make sure the top's level, the bottom lines up, and all the front lines up, and you can do that using a spirit level. And once you're happy, then you want to screw this into the unit next to it, then you can come back and make fine adjustments again with the legs to make sure everything's nice and firm. So now I've altered all the legs, I'm happy that this lines up, so I'm going to pop a few screws through the front, through the side of this unit into that one, and then I'm going to put some metal brackets over the top to make it a bit more firm. So we've got a bit of a tidy up. Now I'm going to go back to the unit, and just before we start putting everything too permanent, you just want to get your spirit level, put it at the side and make sure that's level, put it on the front, make sure it's level that way. If you're happy with that, just get up on top, run your level across this way, then run it across the front as well. If you want to make any fine adjustments, even with it screwed into the cupboard next to it, we can alter the legs a bit and lift the 2 units up and down together. Now I'm happy with how the cupboard sits, so I'm just going to go to the legs now and just make sure that they're all taut so that there's no movement for the cupboard to come back down. There we go. Just by doing that, you just make sure that you're bracing the legs, because it's fixed to the wall, it's fixed to the unit next to it. You want to make sure there's no play underneath once there's a bit of weight in that cupboard. So next thing for me to do is get the old cream end panel that I'm going to put here. We'll line it up, get it into position, put some screws from the inside of the unit out into this end panel, being careful to choose the right screw size so that it doesn't poke through the end, because that would be a disaster. And once we've got that in place, we've got the right positioning then to tile up to. When I originally fitted this kitchen, I put the end panel on and found there was a slight gap at the back, and this is because it's a really old house and the wall slightly bowed out as it came along, and the only way you would have rectified that is by bending the kitchen units round, and that would have looked stupid and it wouldn't have followed the line of the worktops. So we ended up with this slight gap. So I managed to use this pelmet which just fitted straight inside the gap at the back and gave this nice cream finish. But now I've brought this in a bit, the gap has actually reduced slightly. So what I've done is pull this out for now. I'm going to give this a clean off now with some terps. I'm going to fit it into place and then we'll see what to do after, because I'm going to have a fridge freezer now against here, hiding this up to that height. So if there's a tiny gap down the back, I'm not too worried about that. But where there's a gap from the fridge freezer up, I'll see if I can find some old cream matching finishing timber out in my shed, because I know I've got a few bits floating around, and we'll maybe put a little piece over the end to finish it off at the end of the project. And so all I'm doing is just bringing off a bit of sealant here, because I used a little bead of sealant underneath that cream bit of pelmet to secure it to this panel. So that took a bit longer than expected, but I've got all that sealant off the edge of this now, so it's like a new panel again, so that's ready to go on the side. Before I put that into place, I'm just going to chip out 2 of these old tiles. So in the end, to get rid of all the tile cement, I had to use the SDS drill because it's really tough stuff. I've swept it up and I've had to resort to getting the old Henry out, because there's a hell of a lot of mess in here now just off the back of that, and in some ways it would have been easier just to fill the gap, but like I said, hopefully in the end this will be a nicer result, but it's been a hell of a lot more work for something that should be quite a simple job, but there we go. So now I've had good tidy up with the Henry, all the floors clear. You can see I've moved the cream panel into place. I've put a few wedges underneath it there to prop it up to the right height. So that's all in position. Now I'm going to pop a few screws in from the inside of that cupboard into the inside of this panel. So I just cut all the tiles down to size. I've done a quick trial run. I fitted them into place. You can see these are all my loose ones here. They all look good. So now I'm going to get some tile cement down and get these stuck down to the floor. So I'm just going to mix up some tile adhesive. Always put the water in the bucket first. I don't need much because I'm only doing a couple of tiles. And then add the tile adhesive. With this one it's 1 part water to 3.5 parts adhesive. I'm only mixing by hand because I've only got a small bit to do. If I was doing a large quantity, I'd be using a drill with a mixer. So you take a look at that. It just sort of goos off the trowel. And that's more or less there. I'm going to leave that now for about 2 or 3 minutes just to go off a bit. Then I'm going to put that down. And this is rapid set that I'm using today, so it's going to go off really quick. Obviously, if you're not particularly confident at doing this kind of thing, then I'd recommend using a longer setting one. Stupid ideas that never stick. Stupid ideas that never stick. Blowing smoke rings in the afternoon, leaning out the window of your sister's room. A fractured smile as a chemical illusion is fading out. We're in above our heads. We broke our promises. 15 has come to this. We broke our promises. We're in above our heads. We broke our promises. 15 has come to this. So the tiles are down. I'm just giving it a quick wash over there and just scraped out a bit of excess cement that was between the joints. I'm going to let that go off now, go and have a tidy up, then we'll come back in a bit and do the grout. So while I'm waiting for those tiles to dry, I'm just going to go up here now, measure this bit of cornice that we took down earlier, cut it down to size, and then I'm going to do exactly the same with this plinth that goes along the bottom down there. So by just offering this up into position, I'll be able to work out exactly where this needs to be cut. We've got Milo here, he's come to say hello. Say hello to the camera, boy. Say hello, boy. Stupid ideas that never stick. Stupid ideas that never stick. Stupid ideas that never stick. So I fit the cornice into place and the plinth down below. It's time to fit the doors, but first of all we've got to fit the hinges to the doors, so I'm going to get the doors on the floor and get on with it. So the first thing we're going to do is get the hinges, put them into the recessed hole there. And if you look in your doors, you should have 2 pre-drilled holes, and that is to accept your screws. So I'll pop that into there. And something I like to do just to make sure that I square this up bang on is to get my square edge and put that up against this now, and I'll show you what I mean. So if you do that, you can just square it into place, and then you can get your screws down, and just take the screws supplied with the hinges. Now if you're going to use an impact driver like me, just be really careful not to over tighten these, or you'll just tear a hole in the timber. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable doing that, just use a handheld screwdriver. What I generally do is put them in with that, and then I'll use the handheld one just to tighten them up. On a door like this with 3 hinges, if you can't put your square edge the other way, just put it this way and try and square it up with the edge of that metal on the hinge. Now I'm going to get the other door and do the same thing. Now I'm going to offer the doors up to the cupboard tighten up these screws into the pre-drill holes in the carcass and make a few adjustments and hopefully line the doors up.
Burning our names into subway walls, creasing over sketches from the night before. Blacked out smiles.
The secret to this is not doing these screws up too tight straight away, because you've got to make fine adjustments to move them up or down. If you tighten the one up and the other hinge is slightly out, you're not going to get it through the pre-drilled holes in the carcass, so just take your time. I'm just going to do a quick run here on the soft close. When this door closes, if you look at the top, this needs to be raised ever so slightly, so I'm just going to nudge the door up a touch, then tighten up the screws, then we can make the other adjustments later with the fine adjustments on the hinges, and that'll move the door in and out and forward and backwards, but I'll show you that in a bit. Try that again. And that's looking pretty good. I'm now going to tighten that up, and like I said, make the fine adjustments later. And now we'll just do the same again with this bottom door.
Drinking in the club with a fake ID, fall into a taxi, creeping home at 3.
So if I have a quick look at the hinge there, it's really simple. This screw there allows the door to come forwards and backwards like that, so if it's not out enough you can bring it this way by just undoing that and pulling it forward. Now some types of hinge, as you turn that, it'll do it automatically for you. This is a slightly cheaper hinge here, so you have to undo that and manually bring it back. And then this screw here just brings the hinge either this way or this way. So that means that if you've got gaps at the side of your door that need widening or narrowing, if it needs to come to the right, you can tighten this up and it'll draw the door to the right. I'll show you that now. So let's say this door, I want to bring it to the right this way. So what I'm going to do is tighten that up, and that brings the hinge back. And I'll do exactly the same to this hinge down here. Now hopefully that has given me a wider gap at both sides. Now I want it wider at the bottom, so we'll go again. Well, I'm happy with that. Now we'll do exactly the same with the top door. Here we are. Now that looks a lot better. Door runs fairly flush at the moment, so I'm going to leave that for now, and then once I've done all the other work and I get using the cupboard, I'll probably make some fine adjustments then. You also find that as you use the cupboards a little bit, you find they might start to sag or the hinges give a little bit, so you may need to adjust them a week or two after you've actually fitted the kitchen. So everything except for the handles are done on the unit. I'll do the handles last, so I will show you that. But I'm happy now that my tile cement has gone dry, so I think now it's time to get the grout in, and while the grout is drying off we can go back and fit the handles. Then hopefully later on, once it's all dry and tidied up, we'll come back and you'll see me fit the fridge freezer into place so you can see the whole thing finished. Okay, so I'm just going to mix some grout. I've done a nice stiff mix there. I don't need much, so I'm going to get that in now, wedge it into the gaps, then we'll let it dry off for about 15 minutes and go back and give it a little clean with a wet sponge. I'm just going to take my squeegee. I better remove these tile spaces as well.
Cigarettes, a blacked out smile as a chemical illusion is fading out. We're in above our heads. We broke our promise.
So I'll put all the grout into the joints now. I'm just going to go over with just a slightly damp sponge just to make sure all the grout is off the top. I've got my little help Milo here. Say hello. So I'm going to get on with that now. Like I said, you don't want this too wet, just damp. We can get off any excess off the surface and then we can come back and give it a good clean later. And I've just been to fill the bucket back up with fresh water again, because you don't want to just spread around dirty water. And I'm hoping when this dries out, it'll come to the same colour as the old grout. You're always going to get a bit of discrepancy with different batches, and also the other grout's been down for a few years, so it can get slightly grubby and it might look a bit darker or a slightly different shade, but you just got to do the best you can. So now it's time to fit the handles, but before I do that I've got to take them off the old doors that are on the unit housing the fridge freezer. So I'm going to take a quick measurement of the holes that I drilled previously to fit these handles, and that way I can apply that to the new doors and they should match the exact same position of all the other handles in the kitchen. Now when I'm marking out handles, I like to apply the measurements to a square edge like this, and that way I can use this as like a guide, and then all the measurements will be exactly the same on each door, and it makes it a lot quicker. So if you look, I've marked out a little dot by there, one there and one there. Now these two that are spaced there and there are basically the distance between the bottom and the top of the handle, and then this one here, when I turn it around to the side, is the distance out from the edge of the door. So I'll show you what I mean now. If I place that on the edge of the door, like that, I know that I need to put my line right in line with that there. Now if I turn this around this way, line that up, and basically the position I need is there. I'll do a little cross. If we go up to the top, up there, we can see I've got my other mark, and if I position that there and put a cross, that should be in more or less exactly the right position. And if I just go back to check, you can see that that cross lines up more or less perfectly with that other line the other way. That just means I can use this as a guide on each door and speed up the process rather than getting a measuring tape each time, and it means that there's no real room for error. Now obviously in order to get your initial measurement you need to actually measure the distance between the two holes on the back of your handle, because these dictate where these holes are going to go. As for the positioning, well, that's entirely up to you. Now handles do come in a range of different standard sizes, so obviously check that before you start drilling through your cupboard doors, because that could be a costly little exercise if you get it wrong. You drill these holes with a wood drill bit, and it's best to choose one size up from the size of the actual screw going through the hole. That gives you a little bit of room for manoeuvre, and it means that you can adjust these handles around without it pinching too tight. Now we'll just do the same again to the bottom door. Don't forget these doors have still got the plastic cellophane on them, so these little marks that I'm making will obviously come off when I peel it away. For now, I'm just leaving the plastic on until I finish the project, and I can always peel it off again at a later date. Now you may or may not be thinking, why have I put the handles on this cupboard here to the right and these ones to the right? Why not have those ones there on the inside, because it looks a bit more symmetrical? Well, the reason for that is basically ergonomics. Is that when you're in the kitchen, my kitchen area is all around here with my drawers, my hob, that kind of thing. So when I'm stood here and I want to get my food, I want to open the door out that way so I've got access. The problem is with having the door opening this way is you're almost on the wrong side of it for working in the kitchen. So when you're fitting handles, it's always worth taking ergonomics into consideration. It's all well and good it looking good, but you need it to function well as a kitchen in my view. When I'm in the kitchen, I don't even be walking around obstacles all the time. I want to be nice and quick in the cupboard, get what I want, get it back out. So there we are, and as if by magic, everything's now in place. So it's actually the next day, my tile cement and grate has gone off, so I'll give you a closer look at that now. So taking a closer look at the tiles, I replaced that one and a few behind it, and you can see that grate has dried out a bit now and that's blending in nicely. We've then got the plinth that I cut down to size, we've got our cream end panel that I reused, then we've got our unit there with the two doors, the handles, and as we go up to the top you can see the cornice, which again I cut down to size. So it's all looking pretty good. So if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, feel free to subscribe to my channel and press the bell symbol for regular notifications. And for more DIY, how-to, household tips and product review, please watch my other videos and don't forget to subscribe. I've been Pouse around the house. Ta-ta, farewell.